This empty chair represents the addict who died today, not knowing recovery was possible.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Empty Chair for the Addict that did not know that recovery was possible. As always, this show is dedicated to the legend Phil Leahy, who started this empty chair many years ago with the whole purpose of keeping up education, recovery, and different types of supports that are available out there. He's deeply missed by me, by all of you. I think you may have met him, but mostly he's missed by everyone out in the community. And I promised him that I would continue his work for him while I was on this earth, so I'm keeping my promise. He is not here in body, but he is here in spirit with us tonight. So welcome to our second part of the series. So SAMHSA, this was their first year. They did a National Substance Use Disorder Treatment Month, and it's a time to raise awareness of the benefits and the availability of evidence-based treatments for individuals. My first series, I had in all the detox units that we use, or different recovery units that came in to share their experience, strength, and hope, along with what services they provided. So we had AdCare, Granite Recovery Centers, Serenity Summit, Sobriety Centers of New Hampshire. And they just gave so much information for individuals who may be afraid to pick up the phone and call, like, I need detox, or my child needs detox. So it was a pretty amazing conversation and dialogue that we kept going. So this part two, I wanted to discuss, like, what does someone do when they get out of detox? Do they go to sober living? Do they do an IOP? Do they do an aftercare? And then along came the recovery coaching. And recovery coaching to me was absolutely brilliant. For it's a soft handoff to an individual who may not be ready to even know, should I go into sober living? Should I continue my care? And so that's why it's an honor and privilege to not only work with you folks, but to have you here with me this evening. So welcome to the Empty Chair, and I'm so happy that you all said yes, and that you're joining me here tonight. And so I want to talk a little bit about Essex County Outreach. This is where this lady and these gentlemen are from. And the Essex County Outreach is a collaborative effort involving 34 police departments within Essex County, as well as the Sheriff's Department. They're also partnering with social service agents, peer specialists, and other community supports to assist with substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder, at-risk individuals, mental, behavioral health needs, harm reduction strategies, additional supports for families and children, support for those who have lost a loved one, and veterans and youth specific referrals. The goal is to have law enforcement partners and SUD professionals to go out and respond to these incidences within a 72-hour after the incident. You can even go beforehand. And the Essex County Outreach was started by this beautiful officer in Newburyport, Officer Danny Sinclair. She became pregnant, and her chief said, we need to find you a desk. You can't obviously be out there, and we need to find something for you to do. And she designed the Essex County Outreach and what she envisioned this to do. So Danny's been a police officer since 2002, and she's currently serving as the detective with the Newburyport Police Department. She is a lifelong resident of Massachusetts. She knew early on that her passion was to help people in the community in which she lives. The role of policing is constantly evolving, and Danny was inspired when she attended the first Police-Assisted Addiction Recovery Initiative Law Enforcement Summit in 2017. And that's where I got involved with this, because Pari reached out to the Methuen Police Department, and we took in interns, which is actually how Steve came apart. Right. Absolutely. So there's no one way or right way to approach to assist individuals with mental health or substance use disorder, and everyone's journey looks different. So she collaborated with the police departments and she created this. From here, we've created recovery coaches that respond. I know you work out of the Salem PD, you work all over Essex County, you're Lawrence PD, and you're...
Amesbury. Amesbury, Salisbury.
Amesbury, Salisbury, perfect. So the Essex County also focuses on specific groups, again, including the youth and the veterans. We do have individuals that work with our youth. We have a recovery coach that works at the Recovery High School.
Right.
And these are amazing women. So that's a little bit about Essex County. We are currently looking to build our recovery coach staffing, and I know that we will be having a Zoom in-house interviews and questionnaire coming up in February, so we're really excited about that. But I just want to say thank you again, all of you, for being here and for taking your time with being with us. So
You're welcome.
thank you. So Steve Heald, I know you started your journey with recovery coaching by coming through Methuen Police Department, working as my intern. You were hilarious. He used to bring these 10-foot cables to plug in his phone, and we would all trip and everything. And, oh my gosh, you were so funny. So can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to get in this, if you're in recovery and you want to share a little bit about that, and then why you went into recovery coaching, and then took it a step further and became the supervisor of the recovery coaches?
So I'm a person in long-term recovery. As you know, I'll be celebrating 23 years of sobriety in June.
Amen.
But I'm also retired law enforcement, and I've worked in a number of different areas as far as having experience with different types of people. I also owned a construction company back in the day, and so I was significantly injured back in 2005 on the job, which forced me into retirement from law enforcement. And I was very fortunate to have gotten sober 3 years before that. So at that point, it was a couple of years before I could really go back to work. And what I did is I went back part-time working with the youth in a lockup that I had been a residential director at years before, and went back with them and realized there were a lot of kids coming into the programs at this point that were struggling with not with just drugs and alcohol, but heroin was on the scene at that point. Yeah. And so during my tenure there, I started a recovery support group. And I was very fortunate along the way to meet a very good friend of mine today, Tito Rodriguez, who has, I think, taught each one of the people in this room at one point or another. And so I'd known Tito for a long time, and at one point, Tito asked me if I wanted to get involved with recovery coaching, and I didn't even know what it was. So he had me come up to Gloucester, and I got to walk the streets with Tito, and it was an amazing experience just seeing the connections he had made with people that were living on the streets to business folk coming out. And so he invited me to jump on with Powery. So I did the Recovery Coach Academy, and that's where I was assigned to Methuen Police, and hence our relationship started back then. And that was a great introduction for me into recovery coaching.
Nice.
So I've been fortunate to be able to be a recovery coach, both with the PDs in the beginning, And then I spent 5 years at Salem Hospital, and I was the first recovery coach assigned to the emergency department. And then from there, I met our boss now, Danny Sinclair, and she poached me to come up to Essex County Outreach, and it really has been quite an experience.
Awesome.
And I've met some really amazing folks, to include everybody sitting here and our audience.
Yeah, thank you. Nice. Steve Perry. Not to be confused with Steve Perry from Journey, and he's not going to belt out old Sherry.
I wish I could.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. So I kind of, I got into recovery coaching, I kind of backed into it. So I'm in recovery myself. I'll have 7 years in May. And Steve Hield was my recovery coach along the journey. Nice. So he actually had left to go to ECO, but we stayed in touch. So that right there showed me what a real good recovery coach does. They stay in touch. So when he landed over there, he kind of explained the job, and I said, I'll give it a shot. So one of the things that I thought I could bring to the party is I kind of touch all the buttons. I had the mental health to deal with, alcohol, and drugs. So I figured I could help people across the board there. And I wanted to give back because the team I got assigned to help me in my recovery was unbelievable. I never could have done it without them, because I was really good at hiding it for years and years. I was in a whole different world. I was in professional sales, doing high-tech stuff. But eventually, the happiness didn't come through money, the job status, anything like that, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I quit everything and said, I got to get better. And I met these guys, and this is amazing. Because I see people all the time out there, who are hiding it, struggling, or whatever, don't know where to turn for help. And it is confusing. Because my trip to recovery just to get the initial help was really hard. My older brother ended up calling the governor's office to get some information and speed things along, because there were treatments available, but you couldn't get it anywhere. I spent like a year trying to find stuff. So that showed me that people need help. And if I didn't have my brother's help in family, there was no way it was going to happen. So I know a lot of people don't have that luxury, and you can step in for them on that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, I love the job, so it's great.
Amen. How about you, Miss Brooke? Welcome.
Hi, thank you. So I also kind of stumbled into recovery coaching just like accidentally. I was working at an organization when I first got sober, and they were offering recovery coach training, and I was very just eager to learn and get educated and do anything I can to try to move ahead. And the first class that I went into and I started to understand like the concept and what it was about, I fell in love with it, because I am also in recovery, and I struggled with addiction for a very long time, like over half of my life. And, for so long, it's like, I would think about that and like this time that was wasted and all of this, wasted opportunity and all of these things. And so I feel like, the recovery coach positions came along, and it's almost like an opportunity to make it not necessarily all for nothing. You know what I mean? Like if I could utilize my journey and everything that I've been through to possibly help somebody not have to go that far, or just to have somebody feel supported because I can relate to what they've been through, then like maybe it's not, it just made it seem a little bit better. And so I've worked in the substance use field since I got sober, and that's where I met Steve. Was at a community meeting that we both attended, and we just hit it off right away. He's an incredible, all of the team that we started to connect with, and so that's kind of how I got here.
Awesome, thank you. Hello, Hector.
Hello. Thank you for having your program.
Yes.
I am also in recovery. I was an addict for 27 years, and I've been clean for 22 years.
Amen.
I started at a very young age, and when I came out of prison, I started helping out at the corner where I used to deal with my brother, trying to get people to help. And we lifted up a ministry, which was called Rescue Ministry. We're just trying to get people into detox and doing the job that I'm right now, I get paid for. Before it was free.
Yes.
And it's been a blessing. I mean, we help people from the beginning when they down, always trying to help lift them up and try to get them into help. In the city of Lawrence, that's where I did all my running and drugging. So in Lawrence, I try to help every person I can. And just let them know there's nobody better than you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's your decision making that has you where you are right now. But if we could turn that around, your life will be a whole lot different. I work with juveniles right now through Straight Ahead Ministry, a full-time job. And the reason why I also wanted to get certified as a recovery coach, because it's our youth that are drugging and drinking. And most of our youth always say they died because they didn't know what they were doing. And our youth think they know too much. And I try to clear that up with them, that this happens to anybody. It doesn't matter what age you are. So me, by being a recovery coach with Essex County, who I truly appreciate that God had placed these people in my life, that working together through what I do with my regular job with youth, and then working and serving my community, it is a blessing. And I say recovery, it's not for you to keep, it's to give it away.
That's right. That's right. So can you folks speak about like the benefits of having a recovery coach, and then maybe possibly share a story about someone that you helped coach from beginning to where they're at today without using their names? But if people are listening and they're like, oh, well, a recovery coach, first of all, how would I go out? How would they get one? How would someone get a recovery coach?
So there's many ways to get involved and connect with a recovery coach. You know, as I said, I worked with you at Methuen PD. You can connect with recovery coaches through the emergency departments of the various hospitals. There are also other profit or for-profit and non-profit organizations that employ recovery coaches. And it kind of really depends on where you're at, and that's really that's part of the mantra, I think, for recovery coaching across the board. You know, I think about what Steve does on a daily basis, and he's a recovery coach with a community impact unit in Salem that goes out into the streets and into the homeless encampments, and I like the way how Hector said, you know, to lift people up.
Right.
You know, Essex County Outreach is primarily based on the database that we have, critical incident management system. So we were just talking before we came in here today that I had the opportunity to present one of the folks that I had met through SIMS, through the database, with the one-year medallion. And this was at a meeting, a local meeting in Ipswich. And, you know, those of you that know anything about AA, many of them have chips that they give out and for various lengths of sobriety. And that particular night, there were 8 folks that, between the person that got the one-year medallion and the other ones getting their chips, that had all come through our database as alerts from the police departments that were afforded the opportunity to have a recovery coach, a social worker, and a police officer knock on their door and say, we're here to help you out. And to take that one step further, I looked at this group and said, probably 7 out of the 8 of them, had there not been Essex County Outreach in place and/or the SIMS database, might not have even had an opportunity at recovery.
Right.
So it comes, again, there were no recovery coaches when I got sober or when you got sober. And I thank God there was no SIMS database back then. I might have blown it up.
Yeah.
But
Can you speak, so if people are listening tonight and they hear us talking about a SIMS database, can you just give us a briefing of what that is?
so part of the program that Detective Sinclair put together, she connected with Kelly Research Associates, who have designed this database, and again, it's called Critical Incident Management System. It's in every police department in Massachusetts except for Boston proper right now. And the beauty of that is if somebody that's not in Essex County or somebody that lives in Essex County happens to go out to Worcester to score drugs or visit somebody and has an incident, whether it's a non-fatal overdose or as we refer to at risk, which is primarily an alcohol-related event. The PD out in that jurisdiction enters it into the SIMS database, and it automatically sends an alert to that team. Say that person was living in Amesbury, and the Amesbury team gets that alert, which in turn sends one of our groups out to try and connect with them. And I'll say this, what I've seen is the majority of the people that we encounter through the SIMS database that were the focus of that particular incident, when we go to see them, they're not ready for treatment. They're not ready to necessarily go to detox, but their families sure are. And so what we've done is really shifted our focus to helping the family unit and navigating them to resources. And probably the biggest one that we use is Learn to Cope, because they're in a number of different areas in Essex County. You're in Phil's meeting up at Methuen, the
Fran's
Circle
kept
of
it
Hope.
going, Circle of Hope, 6:30 in the police department.
And, I find that I'm doing a lot more work with the mothers, the fathers, the brothers and sisters in helping them navigate their way. It's as the families get stronger and learn how to put up boundaries and whatnot, there's a better chance for the individual to be accepting of it.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of families just don't understand addiction, so they don't know how to react to the addict. And they could take a hard line or they could enable them. So we try to go in and help them understand what addiction is and how it affects everybody and how to kind of bring the family unit together and give each individual the support they need, whatever that may be.
Yes.
So that happens
Can you
quite
speak
often.
a little bit about what you do in Salem, Mass? Like Steve started talking a little bit about your position.
Yeah, sure. So when I first started, how many coaches did we have? Like 2? Me and Ashley, maybe. So Salem finally agreed to let us, work with them. They had just been doing harm reduction, and so I went over there and kind of rode around with the sergeant one day. We hit it off. We saw a lot of stuff.
Before you go any further, can you explain? Someone might not know what harm reduction is.
Harm reduction?
So-
Absolutely.
Yep.
So harm reduction is basically just making sure you're using safely. It could be, clean syringes, stuff like that. But
Narcan, handing Narcan or fentanyl strips or something like that.
Yeah, they hand out crack pipes. There's different views on all that stuff.
Yep.
But that's it stops there.
Yep.
There's no real, attempt for recovery. It's just, if you're going to use, do it as safe as possible.
Okay.
So they were doing that, and they liked the idea of, you know, trying to get people off the street, because Salem has a large homeless population due to the shelter they have there, LifeBridge, who does a great job, but they're overwhelmed. So when I had first started, there was a tent city, so they assigned me to the community impact unit that Salem has had for a long time, but I think they got complacent for a while. They got a new captain, and he wanted to make a difference. So each officer was assigned to different stuff. One would be like homeless, one would be elderly, you know, whatever other category it was. So I ended up lining up with 2 of them, and I just rode shotgun with them. Would hit all the hot spots where the homeless were. And they had been doing it for a while, so they knew the lay of the land, but no one would really talk to them for obvious reasons. You know, they just want to be left alone. So they would start bringing me, just kind of dropping me off, hanging back for safety purposes, and then I would go out and introduce myself to the people living there, and just offering help. And I wasn't preaching to them. I just want to let them know, hey, we know it's a tough spot. You want to treat them like humans, and just offer help, whatever it could be. Do you need baby wipes? Do you need detox? I'll help you. Whatever you want, I will help you do. And you know, that's how it all started, and it just grew from there. You know, then I got really ingrained into the shelter, because, you know, almost everyone there has mental health, addiction, or both. So I got to know all the people there. And, you know, I don't even know how many people we've sent through detox. It's way too many to count. It's you know, there was 200 homeless there. It's been knocked down a little bit.
Think of the impact you've had, because prior to you coming, they probably had 1 go to detox, and now you're talking hundreds. So that's a huge impact of having a recovery coach out on the street working actively with them.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's important to know here too is, you know, we had just kind of come out of COVID.
Yes.
We came out of a situation with the whole George Floyd situation where there was a lot of animosity towards police to begin with. And, you know, so as a recovery coach supervisor, and one of my jobs is also to help people understand the cops are human beings. And another thing that, you know, Essex County does, and it's a particular passion of mine, is to try and help out the police officers, the firefighters, the EMTs, dispatchers, who also are struggling with drugs, alcohol, and mental health issues, because it's a huge dilemma. And if the quote normal people think they have a hard time finding places to go and get help for this, think about somebody in those particular shoes. So, you know, I think about Steve's work over in Salem. It was very, very short order from when Steve got in there to when there was a real shift in the folks in Salem, especially the homeless, that the trust started coming back to the police departments and to the police officers, and they weren't the enemy anymore.
Yeah, and they have great cops. They pick the right guys for the community impact unit, because it's a diversion thing. It's to the point now, they'll call me if I'm not in the city and say, hey, Joe Schmo, we just saw him doing something. We don't want to arrest them. Can you talk to him? And I'll go talk to them, and they avoid jail. So that's happened countless times. I'll go to court with them if they do get in trouble to ask for leniency and treatment versus, you know, incarceration. And it's wild. But we also go door to door if someone, you know, we call them citizens, for lack of a better word, but not that the homeless aren't, but they have a house, but they've had an incident, say it was an overdose, ambulance goes, triggers that, it goes into Sims, we'll wait a couple days, go knock on their door, and just ask if they want help. And the police always go in plain clothes, so no one's freaked out. They'll go in not a cruiser, so none of the neighbors, think anything. And we've had twice I've gone to places where when I got there, they said, I was looking for help, like a place this morning, and you guys just showed up at my door. So the timing couldn't have been better. So it's really a great program, and I like it because they say meet it peer to peer. Sounds cliche, but it's true. Because talking to the homeless, the cops want to help them, but the cops didn't live what I did.
Right.
So within minutes of talking to them, they know that I was in their shoes at one time. As far as drug use goes.
And you think that makes a difference,
It
right?
makes a huge difference because
Agreed.
they can't just say, "Oh, I'm fine," really. But you have something in common.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's what when I started doing, I'm like, if I could do it after 50 years basically of ripping and running, and get better, most people have a chance, but nobody has a chance without support.
Yeah.
You cannot do it alone.
I agree.
It's essentially impossible. So that's all I want to, get across to people. If you want to, you can, and I will help you do it. Basically, addiction's horrible. You're gonna have to go down to the depths of hell and come back up. But you don't have to go alone. I'll go with you. I've been down there before with the addiction stuff. I'll help you navigate it, and I'll help you come back up, and then your life could be great.
Thank you for that. And Brooke, I know you do some outreach with the Pettingales, right?
Yes,
So
that's
can you
correct.
tell a little bit about what Pettingale is and
Sure.
what it looks like when you go out on a house visit?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit different than what Steve does. So we go out the Pettingill House, which is a social service organization in the Amesbury area, and so they're a phenomenal resource for the people in the community. They can help with a whole range of things. From support getting set up with insurance to assistance getting, if you're behind on your rent, you need help with like documentations and RAF funding, to food pantries, to they just have just an abundance of resources that's available to them. So it's really cool to be partnered up with them because it gives you like a professional aspect with the social worker that can help with like some, stuff, and then the recovery coach that can help with like the personal stuff. And so what we do is we usually follow up after an incident has already occurred. So we'll go out to the place, the house, and try to check in. The hope behind it is that we can make the connection with the person. And sometimes, like Steve said, sometimes we're reaching family members and loved ones who are ready for support. And sometimes the people are there. And, the thing about the disease of addiction is that there's a huge factor of like denial with it. So sometimes we're meeting people that this is their first incident, that they've had something come to light, Because like I know for me, it was very easy, despite what was going on in my life, to be like, well, I don't have a problem. You know what I mean? Even though like my whole life was on fire. Like I clearly had a problem. But until like a specific incident occurred that involved outside help, it was really easy to continue that like facade that everything was okay. So sometimes, I keep that in mind when I'm going to meet people, because some of them, they don't even know that they're an alcoholic or an addict yet. They might have an inkling that something's wrong. Their family probably knows, but they haven't reached that level of like understanding. And so what I try to do is just make sure that they understand what a recovery coach is, because it's very intimidating. You open your door, you got this 2 random people, and something's like not right. Like, what are you doing here? A lot of them deny like the incident that we know happened because we have it in black and white. So we just try to navigate it like that, and really it's just to make sure they understand the services that are available to them. A lot of times they're not interested, so we'll leave packages just with all of our information, contact information, and say, hey, listen, it's okay if right now is not the time, but like please follow up. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes we're going back to a house for a second and third time, and that gives you the ability to really like, hey, listen, and it's really hard to continue to deny something that, that you have these people coming to your house. Like, we've seen you 3 times this month, like what's going on, and there's just there's been some great opportunities to connect with people, and like Steve said, is just be there for that support for them, and to help them. Some people do end up calling back like, hey, sorry, like that was really weird, I didn't know what was happening. They think we're there to like take them away. I've had some people tell me he doesn't drink at all, when like there's a report that like you just like overdosed off of booze and you were in the hospital. I don't drink at all, because they're afraid. They don't know, what to expect, and I think that's a really cool aspect of this team too, is like they were saying, to bring like this police department and into it, because there really are some great teams that would like to help, but people are so afraid that they just have up this wall, and instead they'll just like fight or hide or deny, which is just could be fatal for an alcoholic or an addict, is to just deny that the issue's there.
Right. Nice. Hector,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm with you on Tuesdays, and I get to see what you do for the city of Lawrence. I appreciate you do, but tell us a little bit about your outreaches, not just with the hub, but I know you extended also through the STAR program, and I know you went to the warming stations. We appreciate you for that. So tell us about what
I'm
you're
in the
doing.
right place where I want to be.
Yes.
So like I mentioned before, I grew up in Lawrence all my life, so
Yes.
I knew how to get people into drugs, but I didn't know how to get people off of drugs because I myself was blind.
Yep.
But in 2015, I started getting prepared for what I knew what was my calling.
Yep.
And I started getting educated on recovery coach with the Latino behavior substance abuse program up in Boston. Then from there, I went to Paris with the Recovery Coach
That's
Academy.
right.
And every year...
Did you go to Washington, D.C.?
No, I didn't. I
Did
missed
you?
out on that.
Okay.
But and every year I go to what is called the Summer School of Addiction and Substance Abuse
Yeah.
up in Worcester State University.
College,
This
yeah.
is like my 8th year that I'll be going. And I'm just getting educated and more educated about how to work with people. For example, our community, Latino population, we have a problem.
Yeah.
If you are using 10 bags of heroin and you say you want to quit, and they expect you to quit overnight, but you go slow down and listen, now I used to do 10, I'm doing 9, good for you.
Yep.
Keep on going. But 2
Absolutely.
days later you come back and say, I went up to 10. I said, that's okay. Let's start it up again. So you motivate them to keep moving forward, not back.
Yep.
Even though sometimes they will take a step, just like I did myself.
Yeah.
So we try to, by example, by where we live, we try to bring it into them. Who are the best people for recovery coaching? And I don't mean to put those that get educated with a book or videos, but especially the people that have been there and done that.
That's right.
Because one thing that we need to know is that even like inmates, I was an inmate myself, they will read that off of you right away. You can't fake it or make it.
Yeah.
You need to know what you're talking about. And this group right here, we do know what we're talking about. So that's what makes us different with the relationship that we have when we meet this young man and this young woman in the street. We know the suffering they're going through. We know this demon that they're carrying on their back. And for order for us to help them, as we tell them, listen, there's hope. Because if we have transformed our life, right, and we have got out of it, so can you. We're not better than you. So that's the way we move them forward. I just had a young man who said, if it wasn't for you, I would have been dead a long time ago. I said, well, I did it because what I brought to you was the pain I was going through, and I don't want to see you go through the same pain.
Nice.
So I help them slowly, but very careful, how to get them to the point where they need to get to. And listen, if they do relapse, that's okay. Let's get up again. Because one thing is true, where there's life, there's hope. And that's what we try to do. Just give them hope that today was a terrible day, but tomorrow's going to be a brighter day. And just keep moving forward. So with that, I work with the Lawrence PD. Like you said, I'm starting to work with the STOP program. I am involved with all the churches in my community. I'm on faith-based. I don't push it on people, but that's who I am. Who I have a relationship with my Maker. Amen. So I get to go to the churches and educate my churches about how to approach people. We have this problem, as soon as we see somebody standing in the corner or somebody dozing off in the street, say, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with them. Why don't you stop and ask what happened to you? Because there's a story behind everyone. We all have a story. And one thing that made me also get passionate with the job I do, when I came out of prison in 2005, December 17, in March 2006, I started feeding the people under the bridges every Saturday morning. So when I go out there, there's still some out there, not as bad as they were doing under the bridges, but as soon as I get there, they all recognize me. When I go, there might be about 10 different people, but out of those 10, 4 of them already know me, and I get to connect back with them and offer them help.
That's awesome.
And that's a calling.
That's wonderful.
And I know these all these people, folks here, they have a calling for that.
That is
We
true.
have the passion.
That's right.
Passion for the lost souls.
That's right. You know it.
Yeah,
So
that-
what, I just wanted to jump in a second.
Yeah,
because
of course.
I have to just, well, he stole what I was going to say about where there's life, there's hope, because
Yeah.
you had said that at one point.
If they're breathing, there's
Yeah.
hope.
And I was at a point where I was burnt,
Yeah.
and it was hard to see that. But what I try and impress on, the recovery coaches in our team is really our only job is to plant the seed.
Yep.
Okay, and with that being said, we don't necessarily get the opportunity to see that seed, blossom and whatnot. And you're talking to 4 people that all have had different journeys as to how we've gotten sober and whatnot. For me, I was introduced to AA early on. You've got Hector, where it's through faith and meetings, and Steve he came into this one kind of white knuckling and is exploring various modalities right now.
Yeah.
But the beauty of our team, and I would put our team up against any other team in Massachusetts, is if I have somebody that's 25 years old, I have one of my coaches that I can call that might better relate to that person. If I have somebody that was a hardcore heroin addict, I know who I can call. So we've got a really well-rounded group with a dynamic leader in Danny that allows us to do what we do best.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come without, it's growing pains and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I don't get all my medicine from AA,
No.
okay? But I've got built-in therapists sitting right with me that I talk to all day long.
Plus, you have hunting season.
Plus,
And your
I have this
emotional
young man
support,
Pup.
who I am
Murph.
so fortunate to have with me.
Yep.
Murph is the,
All-star.
he's an all-star, and he is the outreach dog that comes out with us on outreaches. And sometimes I worry about who he'll go home with because he's too friendly. But no, I seriously would put our team up against anybody, and that obviously includes my partner in crime. I think a big piece is just educating
Yes.
folks, because there's a lot of people out there today that don't know what recovery coaching is. And it's not sponsorship. It's when I first started,
Yep.
they called us sponsors on steroids. Well, it's evolved into it's not.
Yeah.
Correct.
We're resource brokers
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
hand holders.
Absolutely.
That's
It's
one
like
of the reasons I love the job, because it started out like we thought we were just going to go follow up on an overdose,
Yeah.
and then it turned into so many other things.
Yes.
Because it's everywhere.
Right.
I don't care. I do a lot of work in Marblehead too, in Peabody. I don't care where you are. It's affecting someone,
Yeah.
and it's nice to be able to help the family
Yeah.
in the attic.
And
What
then
I
when you
also-
have miracle stories like we in the audience today, like those are our reason. That's our why. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
absolutely. What were you going to say, Brooke?
Oh, I was just going to say the cool thing that since they started to mint a sponsorship about the recovery coaching, because that's kind of a misconception that I run into sometimes, you
Yeah.
know, like you mentioned, there's so many different pathways to recovery, and like, you know, the ultimate, you know, underlying factor is that like support, right? Support and education. And so I've encountered people, they're like, oh no, I've had a terrible experience with a sponsor. It's like, all right, great, because I don't want to be your sponsor. Like, that's not why I'm here.
Right, amen.
You know, because a lot of people have, you know, bad taste in their mouth from church or 12-step meetings or whatever the case. So this is just like a neutral ground to have support that is not directed at anything. And it's just like, what is your goal and like, what do you want out of this? Because that's what it's ultimately about. Like how can I help you reach your goal? It's not my goal. I might have my hope for you, but my hope might not be the same as yours. But I'm still going to be here to support you. It's not like, if you don't stop using today, we're not going to have your back. That's not what recovery coaching is about. Recovery coaching is about to help that person and meeting them where they're at. Obviously, the hope is that they get better and they do want to, you know, find recovery and live a better life. But we're here no matter what.
Amen. And that's it with the sponsors. They can fire you. You relapse, call me when you're ready. And then
hear
recovery
horror
coaching, we
stories
go
like
by
that.
it. Yes, Hector.
I get asked when I go to the encampment or I talk to somebody in the street. So when I say I'm a recovery coach, they say, what does that mean? I say that I work for you.
Amen.
You
I
don't
like
pay
that.
me. I work for you.
Yes.
Even though I'm under here some agency, but I work for you. And you ever play baseball? It says, no, but I heard they all got a coach, right? And their job is to make sure that that team wins. I want you to win, so I want to coach you.
That's
That's
awesome. I
great.
love it.
Yeah.
And speaking of education, which we've all talked about, like the important thing, I know Essex County Outreach just doesn't do recovery coaching. They do a lot with our youth. And I think some of you were a part of the academy, the youth academy that the Sheriff's Department put on. If you were, who was there? Was it you?
It
And
was
you?
Steve and
Can
I.
you speak a little bit about what that is about and what the experience was like?
Yeah, that was awesome. I think they had a camp with kids from different areas every Friday would come in. And the last course that they went through was us talking to them about addiction. And the main goal is to make sure they're aware how dangerous stuff is nowadays. But then we'd take the temperature because different locations know a lot more than other locations.
exactly.
So we'd kind of take their temperature, see where they're at, and then just ask them if they knew what addiction was and all that stuff. The first question they'd always ask is, what does an addict look like? And it was hilarious, the answers you got back.
Yes, right?
But it would always be like.
And then did you sit there and say, well, you're looking at one? And that just like
you're looking at
silences the
3 of them
room?
right now.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to kind of plant, like Steve said, plant the seed that it's not cool to do drugs. We were all in school at their age. We all probably started around their age too, because they were all 12, 13 years old. And we wanted to let them know that it's just not a good thing to
Would
start.
these children engage with you folks? Or
They
were
were-
they
they
so
were-
They were awesome.
They were great. Sheriff Carpenter does a really nice job. It's a week-long program. And like Steve said, we kind of wrap the Friday up with our program. And each Friday, one of the things that I asked was to the kids, are you being taught this in school? And almost across the board, it was, they would indicate very, very little, maybe in like a health class or a PE class. So we have taken the program that we adapted for the summer, and we're in the process of kind of fine-tuning that. And also, you're going to be involved. I think everybody here is going to be involved in ultimately doing a video production that can be brought to the schools. And Essex County Outreach also sponsors recovery coach academies, and what we're really trying to get our school resource officers to go through the academy. not to become recovery coaches, but to understand the language,
Right.
understand, you know, our roles, because they are the lifeline to these kids, and they know who the kids that are in trouble more so than anybody else.
Right.
And I think, you know, long gone are the days that somebody comes in and speaks to an audience of 300-400 kids, and, you know, and I've been through them, we've all been through them. Not much sits in, you know, not much gets stuck there. We're looking to come into the schools and say to the SROs or the principals, give us 20 or 25 of your kids that really could use this.
Yep.
Go through the program that, or something similar that we did over the summer.
Yep.
Do the video, and then be able to have a small group discussion with those kids that you can't have in a large auditorium.
Right.
When we would be doing these classes on the Fridays,
Yep.
you could look out in the room as we were talking about different things, and just by the facial expressions or body language say, that kid's got something cooking right now. Whether it's themselves, a brother or
family
sister, a
member,
mother or father. And throughout the summer, we had a number of kids come up to us afterwards and you know, and say, hey, I think my mother's an alcoholic.
Wow.
Or I think my dad's an addict or whatnot. And kids need, we're missing the boat right now.
Yep.
As far as where the focus is.
Right.
You know, when I was a recovery coach at Salem Hospital, I couldn't speak to anybody until they turned 18 years old.
Yeah.
I want to spend the time with the 12, 13, 14, and even
absolutely.
then sometimes it's too late.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, I definitely
You know,
agree
at
with
this
that.
point. And these kids weren't, this wasn't, you know, all kids from the inner city of Lawrence or Lynn or whatnot. These kids were Boxford, Danvers,
Georgetown,
Georgia.
Ipswich.
Let me tell you, it's everywhere.
It is.
It really is.
Absolutely. So we spoke about how well-rounded this group is with your follow-up at being recovery coaches. We talked about the education that you folks offer to not only the individual that's suffering, but to their family members and getting the families involved. We talked a little bit about harm reduction and the youth. And can we just wrap it up on the veterans? Who has done work here with the veterans, and what is that experience like?
I go to the VNOC meeting, the Veterans Northeast Community meeting every quarter.
Yep.
And I was
Where
able
is that
to
held?
Where is it?
Yep.
Haverhill.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a meeting house for all the veterans up
Nice.
there. And the first time I went, the whole thing was, how do we get the message out there that there's help?
Yep.
And I went up with the Salem PD, and the sergeant was supposed to talk, and he put me on the spot and made me talk. So I got to know a ton of people. 'Cause there was a little over 100 people there that day.
Wow.
So after that meeting, the phone started ringing off the hook. So VA calling, all kinds of stuff. And each quarter they do a different thing. It was suicide prevention, then recovery, that type of stuff. So since then, I get I'll get a call here and there about a veteran needs help. I'll kind of jump on it and then kick it off to the VA rep wherever they are.
Yep.
And because that's another thing, peer to peer. It's good. I'm not a veteran, so it's good to hand them off to veterans because they have veteran recovery
Right.
coaches.
Excellent.
So which is great. I can't give enough thanks to the veterans of this country. So
Amen.
any little
Amen.
thing I can do.
And yourself, you've worked with veterans as well?
Yeah, we actually had a gentleman that we had worked with quite a bit in one of the towns that we cover. And so we've had interactions with him for probably the better part of 2 years. And it's been quite a learning curve to see what's available out there,
Yes.
what's not available out there,
Yeah.
and the complexity that you can deal with in these cases between mental health issues, PTSD, addictions, stuff, and so it can be really, really complicated. But again, I said it earlier, I look at us as resource brokers, so part of our job too is to find these other resources, like a vet that's gone through the Recovery Coach Academy, or, you know, there's times I'll bring somebody to an AA meeting and kind of tag somebody that I know in that meeting. Will you help out with this guy? I go to an Ipswich meeting and there's a vet there that has long-term recovery, and he's more than willing to help anybody.
Yes.
So,
Well, we're coming to the end of the show, so I really just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for all taking the time out of your day, your evening, and being here with us. Thank you to those that are in the audience and to all of those that are filming. And I know we have an open house Zoom coming up in February. If anyone that you know would like to learn more about that, there'll be flyers available. Watch the Essex County Outreach Facebook page, and you can see the dates and times. We are trying to build our pool of recovery coaches. Those who have gone through the academy and have their C-CAR are working towards it. We would love to have you join us and check it out. Also, I want to bring to everyone's attention that on Wednesday, January 29th, we are hosting, or MVPASAP is hosting, an amazing documentary over at the Nevins Library, and that's from 5:30 to 7:30. This is it's called Recovery City, and it's actually a documentary which Steve and I went to go check out, and we're bringing it to the Merrimack Valley. It's a documentary about what we do. It's a 4 women's story, very powerful. So you can find information about that on the MVPASAP Facebook page, or by always reaching out to me. So I always like to end letting anyone know, if your loved one is struggling, if you need help, there's help out there for you. There is a solution. You're looking at over 100 years of recovery right here, sitting here at the set this evening. So we're here for you folks. Please reach out to us. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us, you can find me everywhere, and I can connect you to these people. So I just want to say thank you for being here and wrapping up this series of substance use disorder treatment and what is available to everyone out there. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.